a great pleasure if you introduce yourself to all the people who are watching this right now.
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Emile Hay. I'm the lead front-end developer at an insurtech startup based in Johannesburg, South Africa, called ᴇᴍɪʟᴇ. At ᴇᴍɪʟᴇ, we build digital customer experiences for insurance companies. So what that means is I take processes that would normally be arduous and bland, like getting an insurance policy, and I use front-end frameworks, JavaScript front-end frameworks like React and Mithril.js to build out beautiful user interfaces and to help smooth out that process to create a delightful user experience for the end user.
So, Emil, it was good to know that you are a front-end developer and you are working on various frameworks such as React. So, as you must be aware of React 2.0. So, how is it been different from 1.0 and what are the benefits of using 2.0 rather than going with React 1.0?
So that's actually a question that I'm not able to answer because I'm very, very new to React. I've only started working on React in the past couple of months. I specifically work on Mithril.js more so. We recently got a client who insisted that we use React. And the jump from Mithril to React was actually quite surprisingly not so bad because Mithril and React both use JSX. So for me, I can't say so much from Mithril 1 to 2, but from Mithril to React, that was a pretty simple jump to make. And I am loving React because Mithril, there are about 4 people in the world that use it, or it feels that way whenever I run into a problem and I need to look it up online. There's nothing on Stack Overflow, but for React, there's a whole world of information available to me. Exactly. So it's been a good experience.
I totally agree with you. So, Emil, I looked at your profile and I saw Hyperloop at your profile. So, could you tell me about what are your work with Hyperloop?
Yes, that's correct. Before I started working at ᴇᴍɪʟᴇ, I worked for a company called Wonderman South Africa. Okay. That is where I built some of the biggest projects that I've worked on, Hyperloop one being one of them, and also the Cadbury South Africa website and a couple of those websites. So what we did at Wonderman primarily is content management system websites. So we worked on themes, custom themes for WordPress and for Drupal. This Hyperloop one project was such a case. I was specializing in WordPress websites at the time, and this one was a Drupal website, which I had absolutely no experience with. But as it often goes with these big projects, deadline came, crunch time came, and I was one of the resident CSS experts. So my boss called me up and said, listen, we need help here, CSS, there are a few niggles. So I was brought in with absolutely no experience with the CMS itself, but with access to the CSS files. So that was quite an experience. We burned a bit of the midnight oil there to get it done, but I helped where I could. I had site builders and Drupal guys working on the CMS side, and whenever something was made available to style, they just pointed me in the right direction for the CSS file, and I made the magic happen.
That's great. That's great. So, Emil, being a developer guy, so what are the situations like when you are in stressful situations? How could you balance them out?
So, I mean, stressful situations are just always happening, and I think the first few times that you encounter them, it's hard. Development was a big jump because before I started working as a developer, I worked as a visual designer. Okay. And that was actually what I always thought what I was going to end up doing, because when I was studying in university, I actually struggled with the kind of things that you make your videos on: breadth first searches, traversing trees, that kind of thing, data structures and algorithms, that kind of thing. And so I was accustomed to a world of design which isn't that far removed, but the situations weren't quite as stressful. So I must say it was a big, it was something to get used to. But you know what? You can only do your best.
Exactly.
That is something that I learned very early on. That I mean, sometimes it's necessary to push a little harder, and the situations are stressful. But at the end of the day, you can't do better than your best. So
Exactly.
if you did your best, then that's all you could do, and you should be proud of what you could achieve then.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree with you. I mean, what a lovely thought. And Emil, what are your roadmap for your dreams that you are looking forward?
Right. So I've always seen myself as a very multifaceted kind of person, jack of all trades type of deal, and I think it's evident from my jump from design to development, and there's a lot of things on the side that I also like to do. For instance, I'm also interested in game design and game development. When I was studying, we a group, my group and I, for one of our projects, we entered our project called Orbit, which is an indie game that we had to do for one of our projects in university. We entered it into the Microsoft Imagine Cup, and we managed to win the national finals for it. So I'm very interested. That was where the love for me started, was from video games. Actually, growing up, I absolutely loved video games, and now I love making them as well in my spare time. I see myself as a bit of an amateur musician as well. I like playing guitar and singing. So there's a lot of facets to this. I still want to design. I still want to develop. I still want to work on games and make music and everything. So for me personally, a singular dream hasn't always been, it doesn't gel with how I want to live so much. But so what happens is I've got many smaller steps, smaller goals in all of those various fields. I've got an application on my on my phone and on my Mac here called AnyDo that I use to keep track of them. For instance, for me, from both a game design and a music perspective, for me it was a big thing that I got to compose the soundtrack for our game Orbit. That was good for me. On a music level, I had some music that I released globally through the popular distribution channels like Apple Music and Spotify and that kind of thing. So whenever I reach a goal like that, which is big for me, I tick it off on the app and I look at, what's the next big thing. So as for one holistic goal that when I reach it, I've reached peak Emile, might as well sit back and give up. Something like that, doesn't exist. But I do keep in mind what I want to achieve next. I keep them attainable. But and I track them on the app. Being able to see them is good for me. I've written a blog post about it as well. That app was a big change for me in the way I do things and stay productive. And that's pretty much it.
Excellent. I will drop down the link in the description of the blog that you have mentioned. Do share it with me.
Okay.
And
thank you. I will do, and I'm actually busy rebuilding it right now, as we always do, always rebuilding stuff. It's currently a WordPress theme. I'm looking into Craft CMS. I've recently seen people mention on Twitter that it is the next best thing in content management systems. So I'm looking into it. I might do it headless. I haven't decided. That's another level. Another type of ideology, I guess, the web language ideology that I want to look into, separating the CMS from the front end and then using the RESTful APIs to talk to the back end. But I'm undecided. I'll see. But I'll give you a link to what's there right now. And if you check back soon, maybe there will be something brand new.
Excellent. We will be forward looking to it. And Emil, when you are struck with some problem statement that you have been assigned to do at your workplace, so what are the ways that you overcome? So I will share of mine that will give you an insight how to present your answer. So if I stuck with my problem that have been given to me, I go to the communities that is some Stack Overflow, Pre-Code Camp and all these things. And similarly, how do you do if you got stuck in some of your work that had been assigned to you?
I mean, I've worked with many developers, and I haven't known any one of them that don't at least have a Stack Overflow tab open somewhere. We're always referencing what's been done before. With Mithril.js, it's actually a lot harder because of the lack of what is available online. True that you say Stack Overflow, definitely one of the first places I go to. And something that I'm actually going to probably bring up a little bit later is a community that I stumbled onto a little bit in more recent times is Dev2. I don't know if you know Dev2. I've created an account there. It seems to be a lovely community where people help out. And what I do for Mithril, however, is because of how similar it is to React, that even before I started working on React, I would search for the problem I'm having, specify React in the search terms, and when I get my result, I work my way back with the small differences that there are between the frameworks. But then at the same time as well, I also don't neglect my in-person colleagues all around me. If I can't find the answer on Stack Overflow, I know that I don't know everything and I can't solve every problem on my own. So I look to those around me who might have more insight into the problem to be able to help.
Emile, by your answer, by the answer of your question, I got another question. So, is it fine to ask question to your colleagues in your workplace, or should we not go for asking our doubts to them?
So, I see what you're saying, and I think in certain circumstances, maybe one can feel not threatened, but maybe you don't want to look like you don't have the answers. You're afraid to look like you don't know what you're doing when you're talking to your peers, especially, I suppose, if it's a competitive environment. I can almost see that that could be a bad thing. But you know what? It's impossible to know everything, and those around you should understand that you're a team and you're there to share knowledge and help where some people may not know everything or might falter. Others will be stronger. I am a very visual-oriented developer. I'm strong in CSS and Sass and less and all those kinds of languages. I can make stuff look the way that the designer intended them to be. But I'm not as strong on the JavaScript side of things. I work on JavaScript frameworks all the time, and I get by, but I do get problems, and it's all right. I feel like there is a big, I'd say maybe a problem in our developer culture, in our programming culture, where you see the developers out there who know everything or appear to know everything, and they're coding all day and night, and you look at them and you think, but that is not very friendly to new people, new developers, and I feel like we should make a change, a culture shift, if you will, where it's more about helping each other and less about big ego.
Exactly.
I'm the best there.
So let me summarize your answer. So you mean to say that we should share knowledge, and by sharing the knowledge, we get a better insight of what the things are being done, and it will help not only the people who is sharing the knowledge, but even the gainer and the giver will both be in an advantageous situation. So basically, you want to say that we should better look for helping rather than going for ourselves, like ego or all these things. So exactly, Emile.
Yes, as they also.
You say.
Sorry. Also, as they say, when you're able to explain something to someone in a simple way, you better understand it yourself. So that's even for the giver. You're absolutely right.
I don't know. Like it's a like a famous quote, like what you have said right now.
Yeah.
And Emile, do you have any suggestion for the people who are just started with developer things, so that they can get inspiration from that?
Yeah, so I mean, I've touched on a lot of what I was going to say to other developers. That's a big one. that you should not be afraid to ask for help. You should never stop learning, because it's very important to expand on your knowledge. And you know what? Not just development. If you're a developer, it's good that you know your programming language and you know your design patterns and all of that. But you need to go further than that as well, because it's good to have an understanding of the business and the business needs, especially if you're working for a smaller company, to go beyond your role and have a lot of soft skills as well. Work on your communication skills, and that kind of thing is important in today's day and age for developers, especially because you get a lot of developers who are extremely clever, but they don't have the skills to work with others so well, or to help others understand their points that they're making. And I think it's good to be well-rounded in that regard.
So it is the responsibilities of the seniors one to take care of the juniors. And
yes, and I mean, my Twitter personally, because I know we are connected on Twitter, you know, it's very geared towards developers and designers. As I come across things, as I learn new things, I like to share it, because there's a big community on Twitter as well that's good for sharing that kind of thing. And I try to do that as well, because if you're new to development, it's good to find those peers that are sharing the information and sharing the knowledge.
Yeah, exactly. So Emile, I want your departing words, so that everyone who is watching this video get inspired from your hard work and get more enthusiastic in what they are doing right now. So Emile, would you please do the favor?
It's such a tough one. It's such a tough one. It's such a weird and wonderful world that we're working in tech. If you are considering it, don't be scared to take the dive. Like I said, ask anyone who's already working in tech and working as a developer. You wouldn't be disappointed by looking into it. Definitely, this is stuff of the future, and we'd be glad to have you among us.
Thanks, Emile. It was really a nice departing words. It felt to my heart.
Thank you, Pushpa. Let me tell you one thing. The kind of videos that you're putting on YouTube right now helped me a ton in university. You have no clue. When I didn't understand anything in the class or in the lecture, I went straight to YouTube, and I found the people who were sharing how to do those things. And that's I would not have my degree to get today if it weren't. I'm happy to be connected. It's good. I'm actually very surprised that you are still an undergrad, because your knowledge looks like postgrad knowledge. So I mean, yes, I understand that you are an intern. Great stuff. I will also be following your progress with bated breath.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate it.
It is a big pleasure. Thank you for chatting to me so late. I'm sorry I had to move it out.
It's absolutely fine. Yeah.
Okay, great stuff.
Yeah.